Welcome back to another segment of the MCR. Mac and me, my name's TJ. In this segment, we want to talk about an interview that the great one, Mark Levin, did with Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida. And in this interview, and Mark Levin interviewed him for his Fox show, and I believe it's Life, Liberty, and Levin.
That's correct.
But during this interview, or toward the beginning of the interview, Governor DeSantis said something, I'll say profound, even though that words tend to be overused. This is what Ron DeSantis said, and I'm gonna read the quote because I'd like to get the words correct here. We have an administrative state which is totally out of control. It violates people's freedoms. It's really been weaponized against the factions of the country that the ruling class doesn't like. And then he ends his statement with this: we need to reconstitutionalize this government. And reconstitutionalize. Am I to assume that Governor DeSantis feels this government is not functioning constitutionally?
Well, there's plenty of evidence to that fact.
Constitutionalize something.
Well, I think he's using a $1 million word where we could have said we need to get back to our foundation, back to basics.
Yeah.
And you hear that in baseball teams. You need to work on the fundamentals of the game to have a solid base for your team.
When you anything, it's like going back to the basics. And of course, we've been beating that drum ever since we've been doing this channel here, that the government has exceeded its constitutional authority.
Right.
And I know I've said in at least one previous video, if you dare to quote from the Declaration of Independence, you're a radical
or racist.
And when you reference the throwing off of tyranny, and one of my favorite reasons mentioned in the Declaration of Independence is the phrase, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I'm going to get a couple of the words wrong here, but you have sent swarms of officers against us to eat out our sustenance, and that's surely happening today.
Well, 87,000 new IRS agents to come after the poor sounds like a swarm to me.
But the thought of this is we agree with Ron DeSantis, but here's the problem: are the Democrats just going to up and say, "Oh, okay, let's reconstitutionalize ourselves"?
No,
that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And in thinking about this and the necessity, and I'll reflect back on, and I'll confess our own version of AOC, maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene, for a couple of years now, she's been beating the drum of national divorce, and and of course people were taking her to task. But here's the problem: we try to reconstitutionalize the government. Democrats don't let us, so we say, okay, how about an amicable separation?
That's not going to happen either.
That's not going to happen. And I'll tell you why it's not going to happen is they know and we know we're their gravy train. And when I say we, the working class, what? The people in Ohio that's dealing with that train derailment,
Right. People that get up and go to work every day and contribute to the economy, which they always want to raise more taxes on. They can't get enough taxes, as you know. We've talked about that a million times. And these are the people that they aren't going to let off the plantation, off the Democrat plantation.
Yeah. And if they're not going to reconstitutionalize, and we can't have an amicable separation, our options are running out.
Well, if once this country fractionalizes, a whole new set of dangers come about. And you, like you say, they aren't going to just let us live and let live. They'll have their Democrat fairy tale land like California, because these places will go broke in a nanosecond without the working people of this country. And so that they're not going to let that happen. It's going to be like the Civil War of old. They're going to try to take back what they think is theirs, and they do think everything is theirs.
And to take the full picture here, while we're at each other's throats, China sends over a couple more balloons, sets off a couple EMPs, and you know what? Is that what it's going to take for us to work together?
The Democrats want to disarm us in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I got to wonder: is it going to take an EMP from China to get us to work together? To at least we'll have a common enemy, maybe. You know what? I'm searching for a solution. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think her. I think her national divorce thing is poorly thought out for a couple of reasons you mentioned. Plus, you got to have your own currency. You have to have your own trade agreements. You have to be your own country then. And are you even going to get the red states, to go together?
Yeah, really.
How do you travel from point A? How does someone? And what about the people who are trapped in a blue state like us? Do we have to move now?
Well, I've been thinking about moving for a couple of years now.
Well, I get that, but I mean, there's a difference between wanting to and having to.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't want to live in Lyndon Johnsonville.
Yeah, really. But I this is an open-ended dilemma we have on our hands here. And I'll go back to DeSantis's term, reconstitutionalize. And I didn't see I don't have Fox, so I don't know if Mark Levin followed up with or is going to follow up with how.
Yeah, I'd sure like to hear the how, because
I'd
just
like,
based on your questions, I have to ask how.
Yeah.
How's that going to come about?
Because
people, not most, a number of our people who comment on our pages or our videos will say there aren't going to be any more fair elections. So how is it going to, if without elections, how is it going to come about?
Yeah,
that's the question they're asking.
So
I think there's a danger, and I think with that mindset is, if the elections, what's the use of voting? So you stay home. Now you have stepped into their trap, giving them exactly what they want. They want you to stay home and do nothing. So.
Well, I'll reference something Dan Bongino said on that topic. His comment was, because he has heard that same argument. Why vote when they're only going to cheat? His retort is, we still have to make them cheat.
I agree.
We still got to make them take that course of action.
I would ask those folks to at least consider the idea that they might be part of a psych op there by the Democrats to get you to think there's no point in voting, so you don't.
Yeah, and then they wouldn't have to cheat so hard.
Right.
But
or just run the table because they own everything.
Yeah. I guess in closing here, and we've begun beating this drum for a few months now, is start preparing. Just don't get caught flat-footed. The worst thing you do is get caught flat-footed when all is said and done,
Right. Got to have water. You have to have firearms to defend yourself and your water. And, fighting a bunch of yahoos that are with Antifa is one thing. Fighting a Chinese regular soldier is a whole other.
Speaking of water, a filtration device, because how much water can you store? And if you don't have electricity, you're without a filtration device, you're hard pressed to resupply on the water. So
without a drink, you die in about 3 days, generally.
And we're talking about talked about China with their EMP. we just had this ice storm, and I know a lot of people where I work were without electricity. And the worst part for a lot of these people was they lived out toward the country where they had well water, and without electricity, they ain't got water. And
of any sort.
yeah, so yeah, this, think of it as a learning experience maybe, or something, you know.
It's a
But
warning for sure.
yeah, so that's all I got on this. We can wrap this one up, and just all we can do is try our best and prepare, and then
Right.
and we'll leave it at that.
Plan for the best, or shoot for the best, and prepare for the worst.
Exactly. So we'll leave it at that. That was a nice ending there, Mac. And
Yep.
we'll catch you in the next one. As always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.